Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, stories from the 78, branching out, going all the way to the East Coast to Connecticut. And that's where my friend Jennifer lives. Jennifer, say your full name because I don't want to get in the way of a thing of beauty. And you used to say it better than I would. So go for it.
Well, I've had a lot more practice, Tom, so no worries there. It's Jennifer Mrozek Sukalo.
Sukalo. Yeah, like mahalo, like you were saying before.
Exactly.
And you have made a career about helping people. You've worked with Fortune 500 companies, cancer survivors. You really bring out what gets in our own way a lot of times. And for anybody that's worked in the corporate environment, there's a lot of that. You know, corporate companies tend to get in their own way with over meetings and policies that are outdated and the whole thing. And so you use all that knowledge to come up with your debut book here, and it's Claim Your Swagger, because nobody wants to survive at work. They want to thrive at work. But it feels like a lot of people that I know have been in situations where all they want to do is get through the day because it's a struggle. And that's kind of what you use, all that expertise, put it in a book to help people, right?
Exactly. So the book is intended to help people tap into and use what they already have to learn how to be at their best, perform at their best, and live their best life, whether that's at work, at home, and everywhere in between. And so it helps people kind of develop the personal strength and resilience to thrive even in chaotic situations or regardless of what life throws at you.
Well, okay, so I'll give you an example. So I left the corporate world, if you will, in the media landscape. I was with a company for a long time, 15 years. And, you know, they got bought out. Anytime anybody gets bought out, it gets weird because everybody, you know, the people that buy you out think they know better. And a lot of times they do, but sometimes they don't. But they just want you to adapt to their policies. And then there are those people that revolt and say, but that's wrong. That's not how we do it. And then sadly, a lot of those people are told to adios because this is the way we're doing it, regardless if it's right or not, right? So there's that. So I've had that happen. But prior to that, it was a wonderful place to work, you know, like the leadership was great, but that leadership changed. And the domino effect of that leadership change from one person, I can trace it all the way back to my one boss I had, who was an incredible leader. It just dominoed across a newsroom of, I don't know, a couple hundred people. It was really incredible to see how, I mean, and you're talking in less than a year and a half.
Well,
We're just decimated.
There's a reason why the phrase exists: people join companies and leave managers or leaders. And it's exactly what you're saying. When one person can have a massive shift in the culture, because the culture starts with the leaders. Mm-hmm. Now, we are all part of creating the culture in an organization. All of us play a role, but a leader can really stifle people's creativity and capability. And in fact, there are leaders who end up diminishing what people are capable of. And in that situation, it becomes somewhat of a toxic work environment, something that people don't want to be part of, right? Because it's horrific to be belittled or to feel like you're not able to do what you're really good at, or to even do your best or bring your best because you have no desire to. And that is incredibly challenging and a hard environment for anyone to be in.
So what do you suggest for people who are in that situation outside of maybe looking for another job, you know, because obviously that's the case, but you know, that's not as easy as it sometimes should be or is or seems to be. But like, what do you recommend when people are in those types of situations where, you know, it's a toxic environment, or maybe the environment's not toxic, but the leadership is just like so like narrow-minded. They're not thinking in full scope of what's best for everybody. They only kind of care what's best for them.
So in those kinds of situations, one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why the book is so helpful, is because when you start to learn about yourself, so it's about really increasing your own self-awareness and your own personal development, so that when you're in situations like that, you can tap into your strengths. you can really become grounded in your core values and start to ask questions. Is this company still in line with my core values? Do I still resonate with what we're trying to do as an organization? My strengths, how can I use my strengths, what I'm naturally good at, the talents that I was born with, even in this challenging environment? So which ones do I need to dial up? Which ones do I maybe need to dial down? Can I really enlist the help of others who maybe are stronger in some areas that I'm not, so that we can still effectively create and produce, even though it's a challenging environment? The other thing to get really grounded on or really focused on in that kind of a situation is reframing or rediscovering your purpose. So when life gets really challenging, when you can identify and get clear on your why you exist, why do you go to work every day? When you can articulate that, that makes it a lot easier to remain focused, even when you're dealing with leadership that is suffocating or narrow-minded or whatever it might be, because you are solely focused on, here's why I'm here, here's what I do, here's why I do it, and that's all I need to worry about. Let the noise go. Does that make
Let
sense?
100% let the noise go. That just like, that's what I was like, I think my internal the checklist was like, just let it go. Because, and I have that struggle every day where I think about that. And, you know, I've been a part of organizations where, you know, it's all rosy and happy on the HR videos and the meetings upon meetings where everybody's all thankful. But then when you get to it, it's like, when you see behind the curtain, you're like really discouraged at like, you know, kind of the culture of blame, you know, like it's not to support one another. All the first instinct when things go sideways is to blame. And it's like, well, and yeah, and I don't get that, because I spent the majority of my career in a situation where when things started to go sideways, people stopped it, helped you get it pointed back in the right direction constantly. It was teamwork all the way. And in this phase of my life, it's not that. And it was so jarring to see people just turn on other people so quickly. But then you think about, well, why is this? Is it culturally in the work environment here? And then you think about it goes all the way to the top. Because if the top person's doing that behavior, being very reactionary to every little thing, then that causes chaos throughout, which is, I'm learning from it because I've never really experienced it to the level that I have. But it's fascinating to see when you know there's another way to do it.
Oh, completely. And I think what's interesting, and one of the things I used to work when I worked with leaders, one of the things we talked about a lot were great leaders take the blame and give the credit.
Amen. It's so true though. And you know a great leader right away because they do that. So the aforementioned leader I talked about previously, she was amazing. She would own it, you know, when things would go wrong, and she would praise when anybody tried to give it to her. She'd be like, no, it's this person, this person, this person.
Right. We did it together. Or, we couldn't, it's not done individually. And sometimes there are opportunities where an individual does need to be recognized for what they've done and the contribution they made. But more often than not, especially in organizational settings, it is a team effort.
Right.
And so
regardless of what a leader thinks.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see. And I imagine in your experience of working with companies and individuals, leaders and whatnot, I imagine, are you surprised at how, I don't know how to say this, how much bad there is in terms of the way companies think they would run is good, but when I feel like a lot of companies, they tell their employees what they should need versus listening, a little bit of both, right? Listening to what employees want out of the experience as much as what the employee or employer wants. You know what I mean? It's always this mentality of you do what we say or you're gone, you know, which is just very old fashioned and a very factory working 1920s thing.
Right. It was that command and control style. Leadership has really evolved over time, and it's continuing to evolve, which is a good thing. Now, there are companies that still are holding on to, I would say, the older ways of doing things. And you have to start, I think, something that's really useful as a person in that environment is to awaken your curiosity, to start going, why? Ask some questions. Why are they behaving in this way? Oftentimes, just like us as human beings, we are a product of our past. Now, chances are those people have been successful because of the way they've done things thus far. Now, that doesn't mean that they should continue that, because we all have to be agile and adapt to a changing world and a changing environment and changing the way people like or need to be led. But if we allow and recognize the fact that those are human beings just like us, and one, they're not perfect, because none of us are. I call myself a recovering perfectionist, which I will be my whole life. But
I call myself imperfectly perfect.
Exactly, right? That's it. We are imperfect as human beings. And so they're going to make mistakes. They're probably going off their past experiences that have enabled them to be successful to this point. And so we have to start, I guess, kind of giving a little grace as well. And that doesn't mean that we have to put up with really bad behavior. It's how do we learn to thrive even in a challenging or negative environment? And that's where we can start changing and shifting our own mindset, developing a new relationship with our self-worth, finding gratitude where it's difficult to see it, but being able to find opportunities to be grateful for something can create a profound and immediate shift in your mindset. And when you shift that mindset, you can then engage with and see your circumstances in the world around you completely differently.
Interesting. I should have talked to you before. I imagine there's a lot of aha moments when you have, I'm guessing you have candid conversations with people, leaders who, and I think the big step is a leader who realizes that they're not perfect, who are seeking your advice or advice that you provide, or people like you that provide to, all over the world, right? But that's like the first step for these leaders, but also for people in general. Like, I think people sometimes get caught up in their own way, right? You know, and I'm sure you've seen it where, you know, you ask somebody a very simple question, they look at you and like, well, nobody, oh, what do you mean? Oh yeah, that's totally me. That's not that person or that, because there's a lot of blame. Everybody wants to blame everybody else for their problems, right? Like it's never their fault, right? So
and
imagine it's eye-opening.
I think one of the things that's so important, and one of the messages that I try and get across, especially through the book, is that you are the leader of your own life, which means that you have a responsibility. So you are not only the CEO, you are also the chair of the board of directors, and you're also the shareholders. So, I mean, you play all of those roles, which means you have a responsibility to you as a shareholder to perform at your best, be at your best, and live your best life. And you are also responsible for your performance because you're also the CEO of the company, right? You. And so everything, and that's where it's taking ownership of our own lives and how critical that is. So just as you were in that situation where you start to blame leadership for what's happened in the company, what I encourage people to do is, sure, recognize that things have changed and that the leadership has shifted and it's become very challenging. I'm not saying to ignore that. I ask people to start looking in the mirror and ask themselves a question: what can I do? Instead of saying, I can't because, you start to ask the question, what can I do? How can I thrive regardless of my surroundings?
It's interesting, very interesting. And I imagine some of that comes a little pride swallowing too for some people, because especially as you get older into your career, you've done it for a while, and then if you were successful at it, all of a sudden somebody's telling you, well, maybe it's not the way that they would like you to do it, but like, but I know I'm good, like
Right.
it's all that give and take, which is a hard thing to do when you've been successful for a period of time, and then somebody you don't know is telling you that what you've done is maybe not the best way to do it, or what have you, whatever the case may be. But either way, either a leader or a person who's been there for a year, if they want to be better, looking at the mirror and asking how can I be better is probably a good spot to start, huh?
I would completely agree. And getting in that mindset of we are a continuous work in progress. So even though we've done it this way in the past and it's worked really well, doesn't mean there isn't an even better way to do it. So what can I learn? What can I learn? How can I grow? How can I get even better because of this situation?
Jennifer, I could talk to you all day. You are just so easy to talk to about things. And I've been in the media business for 20 years, and I've seen some things, and I'm sure you've worked with people who have seen
Of
some things,
course.
but just this brief conversation of what your book covers is very enlightening. And
But swagger is an acronym. So it
I think,
stands for self-worth, appreciation for your strengths and limitations, gratitude for how your life experiences have helped shape who you are, grounded in your core values, empowered to overcome your self-limiting beliefs, and renewed through a greater focus on your passion and purpose. So it takes you
wow.
through all of those steps to do the work to really develop your swagger or claim it in this first book so that you can be at your best and live your best life.
All in this book right here. And I am fortunate enough to have a copy. I have a long plane ride ahead of me where this is going to be the first thing that I crack open when I get on the plane.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much for taking time to chat with me. People want to buy the book. What's the best way, or where should they go to purchase?
They can go pretty much wherever they buy their books right now. So it's available on places like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, even Target. So any of your online retailers, you can pre-order the book now. You can even go to your local bookstore and ask if they have it. And if they don't, request it.
I like your style, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Have yourself a great weekend, and hopefully we'll chat again when your other books pop into the market.
I look forward to it. And do give me a call anytime you want to chat more about your situation, Tom. I'd be happy to chat with you.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.